Hello everybody, it's Tommy and welcome back to another speed build for the Disney Save. We are doing the final Lion King lot today. I'm actually almost done with Oasis Springs. As you can see, we're in the last neighborhood, the home stretch, the final 3 builds of this world. This has been a really big world, one of the larger ones that I have done so far in the Disney save file, and I'm excited to kind of close the chapter on this one because it was a very long requested world and a base game world also, so it's exciting to have another base game world. Obviously I build with all packs, all things, so it doesn't necessarily matter, but it is one of the worlds that people had been kind of asking for since the beginning, so I am really excited to move on to other things at this point. Considering that I have been doing Oasis Springs for a few months, it doesn't really feel like it. It feels kind of like I just started it 2 weeks ago, but it's been, I think, most of my year, really. And so as you can see, we're doing a Lion King restaurant today. This little area of the map is very commercial district looking. It has parking lots, roads, the backdrop has like gas stations, the city landscape. It's very modern looking, and it really wasn't going to suit residentials in my opinion. This is kind of like that similar strip down in Willow Creek. There is a strip of lots along the water on the left side of the map, and I'm not great with neighborhood names, which is why I always kind of just like reference where they are physically on the map, but this is in a similar location in Oasis Springs. It's on the bottom left-hand corner of the map, and it's 4 lots right next to each other. When you look at it, it just calls for community lots. That's basically all that can go here. I could have put some other homes and things here if I really needed to, but I would be ignoring kind of like especially the parking lots and the parking spaces immediately surrounding these lots, as you can see. So I really wanted to plan around the idea that we would just do commercial spaces here. Specifically, I wanted to do one thing for every movie that was in Oasis Springs as a commercial lot on this strip. So we've got something that's kind of representing every film from Oasis Springs. Now here and there throughout the video, if you look in the background on the far end, the other end of the strip, you'll see Hopper's Hideaway. So I did Hopper's Hideaway back when I did the other Bugs Life builds, the same that I am now doing this one at the end of the Lion King builds. And then we're gonna go back to one other movie. I'll just spoil it now. It's Aladdin is getting another lot on this strip. And then the final lot is going to be a movie that is brand new to the Disney save. So it's not going to be representative of like The Good Dinosaur, just because I felt like The Good Dinosaur really didn't call for another lot necessarily. I could have possibly done like a garden, but we have a lot of parks and garden areas in this world as it was designed already. And someone had come up with, in my Patreon community, a really great idea for a movie that I just feel like fits well here as well, but I wasn't going to be able to explore completely. So after those 2 lots, I will close out the world. One of the reasons that I have been kind of MIA for the past couple of weeks is because I've been working on finalizing the save file for download and making the new version of the Disney save available that will have the completed version of Oasis Springs available with all of the Bugs Life, Good Dinosaur, Lion King, Aladdin builds and stuff. If you are somebody who just downloads off of the gallery, all of that stuff is already available on my gallery. It's TomilynYT if you want it all a little bit early, but if you do like to download the entire save file version, that's going to be a couple weeks more, but I've been kind of working on that, which is why I took a break from videos. Now for today's build, this is a Lion King restaurant. I really had this idea from the beginning that I really wanted a restaurant in this world, of course, and we're actually going to be getting one more. But this one, I wanted it to be based on the idea of like a lot of meat heavy dishes for all of our newly entered carnivore characters to the save file. We have a lot of new lion characters, and I felt like they needed some place to go where you could get a good steak, a lamb, some beef, some burgers, but have it be as much as possible medium rare type of meat, blue meat, things that are as close to what you would imagine they would eat in their actual lives. So there is no vegetarian dishes here. Well, I shouldn't say that. I put in a couple of things. We'll see at the end of the video. For restaurants, if you don't know, I always include some clips of me doing the menu, and then the very end of the video I'm also going to include some clips of the staff outfit, so stay tuned for that at the end. But I really didn't want too many vegetarian dishes. I didn't want any salads, any vegetables really, but I felt like fruits made sense for some reason. And then we've also got like Rafiki, so I'm thinking of Rafiki, Timon, Pumbaa, maybe some bug dishes if we could find any of those on the menu, and I did find one. But the primary focus was to do lots of meat, lots of fish, and really cater a menu for my carnivore characters. And I haven't done a menu like this or like a setting like this for my restaurants. I usually theme them pretty heavily, and I've done like pizza, ice cream, vegetarian, alien food. This is my first one that's a little bit more of like your classic steak restaurant, if you will. The big inspiration as far as the shell and the decor of the building is going to be coming from Animal Kingdom Lodge. As you can see in the top left, I had pre-named this lot Animal Kingdom. I did a lot of research on Animal Kingdom Lodge. I have never stayed there personally, although it is on my bucket list to do so. Everybody knows it's very lavish, very expensive place to stay, but I would love to stay there. It's absolutely beautiful. I went and did a lot of research on what the staff there wear, as well as the lobby area of Animal Kingdom Lodge and some of their restaurants and things. This is also lightly inspired by Tusker House in Animal Kingdom in Disney World. I have eaten there before. The menu was a little bit inspired by that as well, and that has the classic like Animal Kingdom, slightly Lion King, a little bit of Mickey and Friends, and obviously African style in terms of the building architecture and the interior design. So all of that culminates to what I'm creating today, as well as the outside shell, which if you recognize, you might recognize it from Disney Dreamlight Valley. It is a house skin that the game had introduced, and they called it Animal Kingdom. So I saw that and immediately thought that is going to make a perfect shell for potentially something in the Disney save where I really want to do something based on Animal Kingdom, but I don't have like a great shell to do so. So for example, I could have tried to recreate Tusker House, but being that I have been to Tusker House before, Tusker House is kind of built into a set of buildings and doesn't have like a complete shape that I would have been able to recreate in a super recognizable way. I also, if I'm honest, don't think that the exterior of Tusker House is all that interesting to look at. It wasn't going to give the right feel. And then the other thing I could have used is just like Animal Kingdom Lodge itself as the inspiration for the exterior, which I think is kind of what they did here in a more condensed form with this house skin. So they basically did the work for me of like taking this really big building and putting it down into a smaller form that makes more sense. And I thought it made the perfect shape to recreate into a restaurant. In fact, when I saw it in the game, I initially thought that it was a restaurant skin, like something that you could replace Remy's with, which I hope they add to Dreamlight Valley, by the way. It seems like they are going to be doing that in some senses, or at least more restaurants in general, now that we have Tiana's and everything like that. But I saw it in the premium shop and I thought that it was a replacement skin for Remy's, and it wasn't, but it gave restaurant vibes enough to me. It's got modern looking elements to it. It's very pretty, large glass pane windows. And when we go inside, you'll see that I struggled a bit with the interior because I think I was really fixated on the modern aspect. So I went for initially like a lot of super modern looking furniture, very round, very brightly colored, and it wasn't the right vibe at all. So I'm glad I actually went back and referenced the Animal Kingdom Lodge interior because that helps kind of bring this home. It looks really pretty when it's all done at the end here, and obviously just using Disney for reference in general helps me so much when I don't have to completely come up with it on my own. It's a little bit easier to just kind of replicate something. This restaurant ends up being a little bit of a limited seating experience. I believe I ended up with 5 main tables on the inside. One of the little bump outs that I've done is the kitchen area. The other one on the right is a private VIP area, or maybe someplace if you have a larger party that you want to come and eat inside. And then I added a little patio area to the back side of the build, which is not in Dreamlight Valley, so that I could do a small outdoor eating area, because this area of the map is obviously very pretty. I think if I came here, I would want to possibly eat outside, although the cars might be a little bit loud and all that. So you have options when you come here. And then there are the 2 like circular column areas off the front of the build. And as you could see earlier in the video, I was kind of struggling with how to replicate those and what to do with them. I ended up making them rooms, and I'm glad that I did because I didn't know where the bathroom was going to go in this build. And although I think it's really accurate to sometimes throw the bathroom downstairs in a basement level, it's not always super accurate for a place like Disney or for a American restaurant, if you will. So I decided I really would rather have this all be one level if possible. I did 2 levels so that I could get that high ceiling effect and do lots of woodwork and beaming and maybe some sculptural items towards the top of the ceiling, and also like really big chandeliers. That was something that was super prevalent in a lot of the images that I was using for reference. So I wanted all of that, like that grandiose effect. So one of the front towers ends up being a bathroom, which not too much of is going to be included in the video, but it's a similar decor style as everything else. And then the other one I was initially just kind of not using because it didn't fit in well with the layout of the inside, but I had to play test this recently as I've been going through all of this stuff for the Disney Save, and restaurant didn't function, of course. And I think it's because I had placed the hostess stand against a wall, which I've done before and I could have sworn worked, but every time I go back and forth between like building Tomi, where I build like 4, 5, 6, 7 builds in a row, and then I actually have to play test something, I have to relearn and remember certain things. And it's those little details that you forget, obviously. So I think you can't actually place that item against a wall. So there was nowhere to properly place it in the middle of the floor. And it also creates some issues with like pathing. This is one of the big problems with restaurants in general, is that pathing can sometimes be a little bit tight. And I think personally what happened was when they added Get Famous and Famous Sims started becoming a thing in the save, it kind of like ruined restaurants, because if one famous sim shows up at your restaurant, it makes everybody get up from their tables, and then everybody is constantly trying to like make a line or fawn around that celebrity. And then if you have an interior like this where it's a little bit tighter, you really need characters to sit in their seats, it doesn't work as well. So you really can't have the host stand like in the middle of the area. It causes a lot of problems. So I ended up putting that host stand in one of the front towers, and it's kind of secluded in that way. It creates a little bit of a line in front of it, but it's not in the main walkway area in the middle where everybody's eating. What's really funny about this is that obviously I playtested it as a restaurant because I wanted to make sure that everything was functioning, all the chefs are bringing the food out, you can request a table, all that, you have to like play it as it is. But then I also turned it into a generic lot so that I could have my sim go and sit in all the seats and walk through all the doors and use the bathroom and make sure that everything was working and can be reached as it should. And when I switched it from a restaurant to a generic, it actually functioned a little bit better in terms of sims just sitting down and staying in their seats, because sims will just like sit if there's no other activity to do. You can go and get food, obviously, like you can go in the kitchen and make yourself food, but when you have it set to a generic, they kind of just use it like a park or a playground. So all the sims go and they sit down and they actually stay seated. It was a miracle. In fact, if anybody knows of a mod that is specifically like a mod where restaurant goers stay seated, I don't know how else to say that, but restaurant people will stay in their seat. If that's a mod anywhere and anyone knows of it, please let me know. I'm going to download it because that drives me absolutely up a wall how much sims will get up, and they'll also stand with their food and like walk around. No, sit down at the restaurant, please. Something I want to just bring up, since we have a little bit of time here today, I wanted to mention that when I was testing the Disney Save, I went through, and one of the things I do on my gallery is I will tag all of my builds and my sims, all my stuff as hashtag the Disney Save, so that if you wanted to, you could use that hashtag to find stuff on the gallery. It's much easier if you just go to my profile and download everything that way, but for whatever reason, I use that hashtag to kind of make things cohesive and make it another way for people to attempt to find things. I have had people in the past tell me that for some reason they can't find my name on the gallery. I think that might be a little bit of user error, if I'm honest with you, because I have also had that issue, and I found out that it was just like the way I was searching and the settings and stuff like that for other creators. But I will occasionally just click on my hashtag to see what's going on, who is using it, if anybody's done a renovation, if anybody's, you know, like just see what's the vibe, what's going on with my builds. And I do want to preface this by saying that I don't claim ownership over this hashtag, and anybody can make like Disney content, anybody can make Disney builds, they can make a Disney save file, anybody can do anything that they want to do, and it doesn't really bother me. I think it's so lovely. I love the creativity. I don't claim ownership over any of this whatsoever. What I do claim ownership over, however, are my actual physical builds and my actual physical sims that I spend ungodly amounts of time creating, only to go to my hashtag on the gallery and see that people are just re-uploading them and reposting them. And I know that this is not like a new thing, but I wanted to use at least a little bit of time in one of my videos to let people know that if you are one of my viewers and you see my builds and you love it so much and you want want to repost it on the gallery, please do not do that. It's not nice, it's not fair, and there's no need for it. Like, you don't have to repost someone else's work. That's not how the gallery works. It's not Twitter. This is not the intention of the gallery. I saw someone post, like, they repost all of my builds and all of my sims with no changes or modifications whatsoever, and they're like, this is just a simple repost, go follow Tomi Lynn. Please do not do that. You're not helping me at all. You're actually just confusing other people because they're going to your things and they're not reading your description, and they're like, why doesn't this work, or what's going on with this? And I update my stuff so regularly that you're basically just holding old versions of my builds that might not be working properly in perpetuity on the gallery, if that makes sense. And then it really confuses people because they're looking for something that I've made and they find your version that you didn't make, and then you're also getting like the credit for it, you're getting the download for it. It's just not a kind thing to do, and it's not how the gallery works. So with respect and kindness, I just wanted to say, because I have a feeling that the people that are doing this are viewers of mine, don't do that, guys. It's not nice. You're not supposed to do it. And I have thought about like flagging them before, but I'm just not going to do it. But if you're not changing anything, if you're not doing a renovation, if you're not altering the sim in any way, please do not just repost stuff onto the gallery. It's not the intention. All the more reason, by the way, if you're somebody that downloads off of the gallery to get my builds and my things, make sure you go to me directly, because I update and I change things. And when somebody tells me that like pathing isn't working in a certain build, or maybe some new packs come out with some new stuff that works for that build a little bit better, I change it and I update it, and then I take the old version down. And if you download from someone else, you're probably getting a version that hasn't been updated. Back to the build a little bit. As you can see, I definitely struggled at the beginning of this with what I was going to do with the interior. I was initially going for like the ultra modern vibe, white marble floors, really modern, round, colorful furniture, simple, clean lines, and then it just didn't look right, and it wasn't giving Lion King either. There was something about it that was neither Lion King nor Animal Kingdom Lodge, and I knew that. It was just ultra modern, and it didn't even really match the exterior of the build either. So I went and did more research, and I'm so happy that I did. They use a lot of darker wood tones. They use wood structures, a lot of like wood sculpture work, which we have a very limited variety of in the game currently. And as you can see, I'm basically using Sulani as a version of that. And I know that that's not like culturally accurate technically, but it is what we have now. So I'm going to use that as like a placeholder, if you will. Hopefully we get more packs in the future that have some more big wooden sculptural items that I can use in the architecture, the beaming, the pieces on the walls as like decor. It does give a similar feel, but it's not 100% accurate. I decided to use bamboo in here as a more modern looking piece that is a little bit cleaner lines and things like that. I noticed that in the Animal Kingdom Lodge, they use plants, but they tend to be like very modern looking plants with really big pots and structures. But I've been using bamboo throughout a lot of the Lion King builds, and I figured it was a good way to kind of like tie all of them together, as well as these beautiful plants. I don't know what they're from. They might be from the Love Struck pack. They have like a little bit of a light on the pot, which I thought was really pretty. I did some little animal things here and there. There's some animal print on some of the seating, and then I wanted those little giraffe statues. Again, I'm not quite sure what those are from, but they're like these ultra modern geometric giraffe pieces that I thought were perfect as little table items. And a little bit of Star Wars as well. The chandeliers from Star Wars are beautiful, and some of these sculptural pieces have the similar like color palette. As we get towards the end of the video here, we're going to transition over to the menu. I didn't speed this up as much because I think that you guys will want to actually see everything. Basically for the menu, I exclusively went for those like fruity cocktail drinks. They have umbrellas, fruit on the rim, anything that seemed a little bit exotic fruit if it was labeled that way. The colorful fruity drinks, tons of those. Not really like the wines or the beers or lemonade or any sodas or anything like that. Kind of also inspired by another Animal Kingdom lounge. I think it's called Sanaa, which I have never been to, but is well known for their drinks and like their appetizer type items. That was sort of the inspiration there. And it was something that I could do that was just not water, right? Because if you think about the palette of the characters that I'm sort of basing this place off of, water is really the only good option. But then I thought about like tropical fruits that you could break open, like coconut water, bananas, pineapples, things like that. Not all being tropical, obviously, but things that I just felt like made sense in a juice condensed form that if these characters could get their hands on, they would enjoy. The appetizer section is also inspired by Tusker House. If you've ever been there, when you go, they give you this bread basket basket that is pretty viral on like TikTok and things like that. They have colored bread, like zebra bread, that is specifically done, and it's just like a mixed bread basket. Some of them much better than others, and a few like butters and things like that. I wanted to pull some of that into the menu, although I was a little bit hesitant to bring in like any wheat products. I didn't think that that was really the point of what I was trying to get across here, but it was some of the options that made more sense on the appetizer menu. And then some like grilled fruit. There's grilled bananas. I think I did one fruit bowl. It was just some of the options that were available that made sense compared to what else we have, considering that there just isn't like a lot of choices that was within the scheme of my theming. And then the main appetizer menu, or the main entree menu, I initially just went in and wanted meat dishes, specifically if the image was meat whole, like it was a whole piece of something, chicken, beef, lamb, whatever it was. I wanted it to physically look like more of like the raw meat or the animal aspect of it, not prepared meat, like not meat pies, not wraps, not anything where the meat is hidden. I wanted it to be a plate with just like meat, not a ton of vegetables, again, not a ton of like roast dinners or dishes that had sides that were heavy on the vegetables. I really just wanted this to be like carnivorous. I then later went back and added some more fish dishes because I thought of Dreamlight Valley, and initially when they had brought the Lion King characters into Dreamlight Valley, that was one of the things that I sort of immediately thought of, is like when they go to the restaurant, what will they eat? Because there are almost no dishes in the game that had meat up until the point that Gaston was added, and he has like a meat stall that you can play with, so you get some access to dishes like chicken and things like that. But previously we had just the Lion King characters, and they don't have a lot of options for like meat heavy dishes, but obviously their palate is catered more towards fish, and that's something that I think they would also have an interest in. Like a lot of them would be able to catch fish in the water and all of that, so I did go back and add more salmon, more things like that. Desserts, very similar to the appetizer section with the fruit heavy dishes, not a lot of options as far as that goes, and I didn't want to just do like plain fruit like I had kind of done on the appetizer menu, so I did do a little bit more of like prepared fruit with like the exotic fruit tarts and some fruit pies. This is really just a balance of like what we have available, and one of the things that's always a little bit disappointing is that they will often add new recipes into the game, but that doesn't always mean that they're available at the various restaurants. So even though we might have some dishes, for example, that are a little bit more culturally appropriate for certain restaurants that I've done in the past, they're not always necessarily available to choose in like a custom menu, unfortunately. And there will be some really quick clips at the very end here of me doing the staff outfits. Now, this is a little bit choppy the way that I filmed this because I was so unsure of how to pull this off and really like what direction I wanted to go in with these outfits. I initially Googled like outfits that the staff wears at Animal Kingdom Lodge to see if I could use it as inspiration, but unfortunately I didn't really feel like it fit the vibe. And then I found some images and references of like some older outfits from like the 90s that some of the characters used to wear in, or some of the staff used to wear in Animal Kingdom compared to what they wear now, which is a little bit more of like the adventurer safari, almost like jungle adventure-esque type of outfits. The ones where they wear like the hats and they have, I don't know how else to say that. They have like the vests and the hats and it's very tan and green and blends in with the environment. That's kind of what they wear in Animal Kingdom, and that wasn't really what I wanted either. This restaurant, I think, has a sense of elegance to it. It looks like it would be a little bit of a higher end steak restaurant. Not too bad, but maybe someplace that you don't necessarily wear jeans to. So I didn't feel like the staff being dressed like jungle explorers really made a ton of sense. Instead, I opted for some button-up shirts that are a little bit more relaxed. A lot of the characters are wearing for rent stuff or some light jungle adventure inspired things, or maybe some pants or jeans that have patterns on them, especially that skirt in the first clip that I was able to find. I felt like the colors and the patterns of that really set the tone for what I was looking for. It's hard because I am trying to do a little bit of an African inspiration, but we don't really have a pack that's dedicated to that, so I don't have a lot of great options in terms of like patterns, and shapes was really the bigger issue. There were a lot of items in the catalog that might have been like colored correctly, or they have the right patterns on them, but then they're not shaped correctly, if that makes sense. Too modern looking, too loungy, or it's a mix of too many packs like back in base game and City Living, so the colors really just don't match up well together and the outfits don't look super cohesive. So I filmed a few of these, mostly just the hostess and host outfits, and then at the end you'll get some screenshots of the final versions of the outfits really quickly. Now, what I'm going to do at the end of the video is announce what we're doing for the new world. I'm so excited. I had run some polls over on Patreon a couple of weeks ago asking what they wanted to see for the new Disney Save world now that Oasis Springs is pretty much done. And I'm really excited to announce that the new world for the Disney Save is going to be Ravenwood, which I am sort of surprised, one, but I'm also not, because I did this in a little bit of a different way this time around. Normally I will just open up all of the options and say pick whatever one you guys want, but this time I wanted to do it differently because I have some plans and some things that I would like to go back to previous worlds and change a couple of things, and that was contingent on me doing like a new world, for example. So I have a lot of things I would like to change about Evergreen Harbor, and then those changes will impact a future world because some of those characters and items are going to be moving to a new world. And Ravenwood was one of the options where I had to change some previous things. So I called it the World Renos voting. We're going to be going and doing some older worlds first and changing some things because some of the characters and the houses and builds that are in those worlds are going to be moving to Ravenwood. And then obviously there will be brand new things for Ravenwood. The Ravenwood option was probably the most exciting in my opinion because it included the most amount of new stuff, but it also included 3 world renos, which I know sounds like a lot, but I'm not redoing the entire world. There's just certain sections and maybe just like one build in one particular world that is getting changed in order for me to move it somewhere else. Maybe not even potentially to Ravenwood, but it's getting moved for some reason or another because it affects how Ravenwood is eventually going to turn out. Hopefully that makes sense. So basically in a couple of weeks after I finish the Disney Save and get that downloaded, and you guys can expect a world tour of Oasis Springs coming up in the next few weeks as well, and the last 2 builds for Oasis Springs. After all of that is done, I'm going to be jumping back into an old world to do a couple of little changes, some new builds, some new characters possibly, and then we'll kind of go through a couple of world renos all the way to the point where we can get to Ravenwood, and we'll start from there. Very exciting. I hope you guys are excited for all of that. It's going to be some cool changes and things. I'll explain more about all of that as we sort of go through it. It's going to make a lot more sense. Some of the changes that I've decided to make, some of the things that really needed to be changed but couldn't be changed at the time because I didn't have the space, but now we do have the space with all the new worlds and things that we've been getting. Let me know what you thought of today's build down in the comment section below, and hopefully if you're excited for Ravenwood, let me know what movies, what things you'd like to see there, what you think the plans are going to look like. If you'd like to support the Disney Save on Patreon, you can do so by clicking the link in my description box down below or the one at the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching today, and I will talk to you all in the next one.